He always cuts the night I record. Like I
Oh,
think
yeah.
he knows when I go
He
live,
knows.
he jumps on the tractor. It's a thing. Brad, my next door neighbor. Anyway, hey everybody, happy Wednesday. See some of you guys down at Walt Disney World starting tomorrow for springtime surprise. Yes, I still have not packed and have not done anything. I just put in a load of, actually, my wife just put in a load of laundry, so I'll have some clean clothes. But we're going to have fun this weekend. But until then, right now, we're going to talk about a great Adventures by Disney trip with listener Gene in Ohio. This one's going to be epic. We're going to talk Disneyland. We're going to talk about just some cool tours that you
Mhm.
only get to do with ABD. I mean, access is the key word, I think.
Oh.
So we're going to be doing this. So hang in with us. We're going to have a good time over the next 30, 40 minutes or so. So just grab a seat. And this show will be out on Monday if you miss it. But here's the video. All right. Let's see. So this is, if I can read my scribble, 2271. Okay. Here we go. Welcome to episode 2271 of the Be Our Guest Walt Disney World Trip Planning Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Rallman from BeOurGuestPodcast.com and one of the senior agents over at the Magic for Less Travel. Happy Monday to you. Hope you had a great weekend. I sure did. Got to go down to Walt Disney World in April, and this time, no cheerleaders. Not that I have anything against cheerleaders. I live with one. I love the cheerleaders. We have the cheerleading worlds happening at Walt Disney World this coming weekend. And then the following weekend, we have Summit, which is kind of the next level. Then we have D2. So cheerleaders will be all over Walt Disney World for about the next month. But this past weekend, I just got to hang out with people in sneakers, short shorts, and hot dog costumes. And the hot dog costume guy was me in the 5K. So we had a good time. We got some medals. We ran some miles and made some memories. And that's what Disney vacations are all about. But if you didn't get down there, I hope you had a great weekend with friends and family. I hope you're looking forward to your next Disney vacation, whether it's a week away or maybe a decade away. We can always dream and, keep that on the memory. That's what we do around here. So today we have a great treat for you because we don't get to talk about these kind of trips very often. We're going to talk about an awesome Adventures by Disney trip out to Southern California with listener Gene out in Ohio. So Gene, thanks for taking the time because it's going to be a fun show. So glad to have you on.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me on. And it's always fun to talk about Disney.
Oh yes. And we've already done a show before the show, I think, because I was so excited to talk to you about this. I said, we got to stop and just hit the record button and get cracking because I want to hear about this. But before we jump in here, give me some of your background with Disney, because I think I find it super interesting. I don't know about our listeners. I haven't gotten feedback on this too much either way, but I love to hear how people end up listening to Disney podcasts, reading Disney blogs, and kind of being such a part of the Disney fandom. Where did it all start for you?
It actually started when I was about 7. We went out to Disneyland, and it had already been open several years at that point. And so I have just some memories just seared into my brain, I remember riding Dumbo, and I remember climbing up in the castle and seeing the different things in the castle. And I remember riding the train and seeing all those kind of sideshows on the train on that. But then we didn't do anything Disney the rest of my childhood on that. It'll be in Ohio, and that was out in California. Got married in 72, and we didn't go to Disney. And in 76, my mom died in the spring. And I remember both my parents were gone at that point in time. And I said to my husband about a month after that, I said, boy, Christmas is going to be rough this year.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to go to Disney World, because by that time Disney World had been open. It was only the Magic Kingdom then. But he took me there, and that just started it. And we started going, not every year, but maybe every 2-3 years. And then we had kids, and we had to take the kids. And this last couple of years ago, we took grandkids now. So it's been, it's just a continue, but mainly it's been all in Disney World and watching it expand and doing a variety of things down there. And so I just had I had to go back to Disneyland. It was a bucket list thing for me to go back out there. And it ended up being, when we were planning, we went last November, and last year was our 50th wedding anniversary. And so
congratulations, by the way. I want to make sure that's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. And we just decided to travel off and on. We did some bucket list things. And so I was able to convince him to let's try Southern California. And then we looked into Adventures by Disney, and they just, it just was over the top. I said, I have to do this. So you got us connected with Adventures with Disney and you set us up for that trip. And it was a trip of a lifetime. It was an adventure. And you were
That's
VIP all the way.
I'm glad to hear that because that's what I've heard from every one of my guests that gets
Oh,
back. They say that, you have a level of access that the general public doesn't get, and you're treated like a VIP from the time you arrive at the destination until the time you head back to your hometown.
yeah.
And you pay a premium for these experiences, and I'm glad that people find that it is worth it. So we're going to kind of talk about the mechanics of that. So let's talk because people are always curious about this. I mean, I would guess that most of our audience has not experienced Adventures by Disney, but they have probably gone to Walt Disney World or Disneyland or maybe
Mhm.
the Disney Cruise Line, more common. So what's it like pre-trip as far as, how much research did you do and how did you get ready? Because you did the Southern Cal. Well, tell us the one you took. Like, put it all
We
together
did
for
the
us.
Southern California. It was the 6-day one there. I think there's a 4-day and a 6-day. We took the 6-day one because I'm also a Muppet fan. And the 6-day one, they go to Jim Henson Studios and they spend a little bit more time at the Walt Disney Studios. And that was kind of the first part of the trip. And then Disneyland and the parks were the second part of the trip. But I would tell you that one thing that kind of set me off, not set me off, but it was frustrating at first is because they told you that we're going to treat you like VIP, but they didn't. And they told us some things, but they didn't. I'm used to planning. I'm
Mhm.
used to planning this day, and then we're going to have a dinner reservation here, and
Yeah.
we're going to do this. And that you had to kind of let go and let. I actually wrote you at
Yeah.
one point asking you some questions. Said, Jeannie, just relax. Go take
And
something.
what's funny is that's such a great point because I get this with first time cruisers all the time too, right? The people
Oh,
that are Walt Disney World, they're like type A personalities. They're like, okay, so I know at 7:42 we're gonna have a restroom break in the restrooms by Gaston's Tavern, and it'll last for 3 minutes, and then we're gonna be on the aerial, right? Like I tell them when you're on a cruise, you don't do that. Like they're like, "What do I do?" I'm like, "Nothing." Like you get on the ship, like you might have Palo, for brunch that day or something, but it's laid back. And I think that is kind of like a mental struggle for
it
some
is.
people, but I think now if you did a second one, you would understand the process. I mean,
I would.
it's
I would.
liberating, but it's
And
frustrating.
then there were so many surprises, so then I was just able to let go and then just enjoy these surprises that just kept popping up, and then they would surprise us continually. There was little treats here and there and extras, and it was just great. So that was help. And then we got a package beforehand too, a
Mhm.
big box, and it had a backpack and water bottles and a lot of pins and lanyards and luggage tags, and it was like, oh, we're getting closer. So they built the anticipation up beautifully.
The Christmas morning of Adventures by Disney. That's what I always call it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like, here it is. We're getting
yeah,
ready to go on the trip.
yeah,
Okay,
and
so how did so you get ready, you got the pre-arrival gift and the packet there.
mhm.
Because I mean, obviously you're a huge Disney fan. You said a Muppets fan.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
I'm sure you do, and you're an author. I mean, we haven't talked about that, but in your job, you're an
yeah,
author.
Ryder,
I'm
yeah.
sure writer. So you do I'm sure you do tons of research. So did you probably dove into all the places you were gonna go and you had a pretty good idea, even though they
I
were gonna surprise you, I would imagine, right?
I had some idea, but my main source for Disneyland information was listening to your first trip. You had
That was
stopped.
all over the place.
Yeah, all and I just kept taking notes and kept notes in my iPhone, notes, be sure to check this and I kept literally somebody would mention the some place to eat and I'd write that down and sure enough they had us booked at some of these places. So that made it fun. And it's just little things like I knew I wanted to get beignets and I knew I had to go to Inside Out and
Yeah.
things like
Yeah.
that. And we did do all that. So I did have a little list in my head. So
Perfect. Perfect. Okay, so talk to us about the travel. Okay, you go from Ohio to Southern California. You get there. So I'm sure you're just so amped up and excited because you're gonna go, on these tours first, and you're gonna go to Disneyland. How's arrival look? How
The
does Adventures
the
by
arrival,
Disney greet you?
we flew into LAX, and the thing that it started, like, right as soon as the plane landed on that, I keyed up my phone again, and I had 2 texts, and the text said, "Hello, this is Carlos. We're your driver, and I will be in a black Mercedes." And
my Uber driver when I went to Disneyland a couple weeks ago was not in a black Mercedes. I think he was in a Kia.
I just was shocked. I said to Bill, "Look at this," and sure enough, you go out there and it's that little holding the little card with your name on it. It was just I said, "Okay, the magic's begun, and we're not even there yet." So it started the minute the plane landed, it seems like, and he took us to the Lowe's. We went to Hollywood, actual Hollywood first, and that we were at the Lowe's Hotel there, which was right there on the main drag. And I think I told you in my notes that we opened the curtains of the hotel room, and we could see the Hollywood sign right
That
out
is
our
cool.
window. That was very cool.
For us Midwesterners, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it is.
I
It
know
is.
some people out in LA are listening like, who cares? You know what I'm saying?
No, but it was like,
We
wow,
drove
we're here.
forever because when we went out there in July with my daughter, who was 14 at the time, if we did not see that Hollywood sign, I mean, it didn't matter that we went to Disneyland. We had to get a picture for her social media of her with the Hollywood sign over her shoulder.
There
But the trade-off was we got to go to the Griffith Observatory because I was like,
that
oh,
is.
that's where you got to see it from. So I got to go up there. We took a picture from up there. It was awesome. So everybody won. But yeah, don't laugh if you're from Southern California. Like, seriously, it's awesome.
Yeah. But,
So,
that whole first half of the trip was so neat because, like I said, we felt that we got a private tour of the Chinese theater and all the background, and that was part of the nostalgia. And they always related it to Disney. I did forget to mention we had two tour guides, Danny and Michael, and between them they had over 50 years of experience in Disney. So you talk about stories and backgrounds. They were absolutely wonderful. And you'd ask them something, and they would bend over backwards to create it. And they just did all sorts of little things. They knew somebody's birthday, they knew our anniversary. They just treated people so nicely. And it was just we felt a group. There was 26 of us in the group from all over the United States, and they got to know each of us as individuals and what we liked, and would key us in and connect us to things.
So I usually ask this question at the end when I talk to folks about Adventures by Disney, but it draws on my experience. I was an instructor at Space Camp, right? So I would get a group of teachers for a week. It kind of, because it's similar to this. You'd have these teachers from all over the world sometimes.
Mhm.
It came down for 6 days for intensive space science curriculum training for their classrooms at the schools. And so I would get to teach these teachers, and I teach them from 6 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock at night because I work double shifts because I was living there anyway. So why not? And the thing was, by the end of the week, there was like a
Mhm.
camaraderie
Oh,
of not
yes.
just me and the other teachers, but the teachers between themselves. There were bonds
Yes.
that were made quickly. Does that happen with the groups on
It did
Adventures
with
by
that
Disney
group.
spending time together?
It really did. I remember thinking, I was trying to think, it was right in that first part of the trip. We ate at Oh Tam O'Shanter. Is that Tam O'Shanter, the restaurant where Walt used to
Yeah,
eat at?
yeah, I know what you're talking. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
what you're talking about. Yeah, because everybody was telling. I didn't go there, and I got all kinds of heat because I think this place you got to go
Oh,
and
he
get the
used
chili.
to sit at his booth that he used to sit at.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Yeah.
there was like a table of 8 of us, and I think it was, and some had been to Disney in Singapore, and some of them had been to Disneyland before, and it was just like we were friends. And that was like right at the beginning. We were all connected. I remember looking around the table thinking, "Oh, this is so cool." We're all Disney nuts in here. And this was just 8 of us out of the 26 at our table. It was just very good. So yes, you did get very close, and actually of all ages, it didn't matter. There were people older than us, and there were several younger couples. No kids. It's on this trip.
Mhm.
It's all adults, but it was just like you said. Yes, you do build friendships and
I
closeness.
think that'd be great because everybody's going to have that common bond. I mean, if you're going on an Adventures by Disney trip to Southern California, you're a Disney fan. I mean,
Right.
so you have that to draw from. But like you said, some people have probably been to the Asia park. Some people haven't. I mean, how cool would it be to share meals, and talk about, hey, we've done this, you've done that,
What's
these people
different and all
yeah.
that, you learn a lot, and then you'd see each other in the parks later on, and they'd come up, "Oh, look, you gotta go see this," and we saw some things that we probably would have missed if it hadn't somebody had told us about, so,
Yeah,
but
I
that
love relationships like that. I love the opportunity to meet people that are different than the folks. That's what I love about this show, right? I would have just been a guy stuck in Missouri that would have had a very limited opportunity to meet people. other than the podcast. And because of
Mhm.
this, I've met people from all different parts of the country and all different
Yeah.
parts of the world, and opportunities like cruising, like an
Mhm.
Adventures by Disney. It gives you the opportunity to meet people of so many different, backgrounds. And it just really does kind of open your eyes up and just, it makes me happy to
Right.
hear that. I
That's the
love that.
value of travel. I think that's the
Absolutely.
real value of travel. Yes.
100%. 100%. Okay, so let's talk though about the stuff you got to do before you got to Disneyland. So you got to
Okay.
see the Muppets, you got to
The
see the
Muppets, and it was interesting that we went to the Muppets. It used to be Charlie Chaplin's studio,
Hmm.
and it's really more offices there now, but there was a puppeteer there, and we got to play with the puppets, and we, get the history of the studio and things like that, and that was interesting, and then, like I said, we ate at the one restaurant that Walt used to eat at all the time, and then they took us to the, um, oh they took us back up to Griffith Park, and we saw the Carowinds where all the trains are now, and they
Mhm.
they actually moved Walt's workshop there.
Mhm.
So it was just again, it was all the memorabilia. Walt with his love for trains was
See,
there.
you're so lucky. We went there, but it was closed.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, it's closed," but I took
Oh,
a
it was
picture. Yeah.
wonderful. And but there was probably 15 people working volunteering there that just loved trains. There's crazier than the Disney people, you know?
Wow.
And, they just loved trains. They just loved it, and it was great, and we saw the carousel. We saw the
Mhm.
carousel that and the bench where Walter sat on to watch these girls on the carousel, so we saw a lot of that, and, the next day, before we got to the parks, they took us to the Walt Disney Studios, and that had to be one of the highlights to walk that place is huge. You know, it's like a village. It has its own water tower. You know,
Yep,
we've seen
yep.
the water tower and stuff and walk the streets and all the different buildings, couple sound stages, and we got to go in the archives and got to
Oh, I
hold
couldn't
a
imagine that. Oh, that'd be
oh the
well, I
arch
mean, you're literally surrounded by the history of the company and the archives. I mean, and that's access, right? Because that's something Joe Public doesn't get to
oh
go do.
is unbelievable, unbelievable. We held I think it was Snow White. We held the Academy Award at the
Oh, wow.
and
I would
everybody had to get their pictures taken with the Academy
my
Awards.
hand would be shaking.
Yeah, it was like, look what I've got." So that was so neat. And the thing that happened there, and I think I put that in the notes too. They had us in front of the Imagineer building taking a group picture, and out walks Josh Diarmo.
Oh,
Did I
yeah.
say his name?
Yeah, Josh Morrow. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he walks out and he starts greeting everybody and friendly, very people person, very people shook our hand, stood for a picture, visited with us for a while. So that was kind of our celebrity greeting,
Yeah, no
we
kidding.
yeah, no
That's a
kidding.
big
And
one.
but then to walk through the building and hearing the sound people, how they make the sound and the things, and seeing the drawings and the mock-ups, the smaller mock-ups of things. We weren't allowed to take pictures inside.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah, exactly.
From
Yeah.
that. But it just oozes. It just oozes creativity there and
So
stuff. It
now,
was great.
obviously, you're probably a Disney movies fan. Did you? Because I mean, I don't see a lot of movies, but I did see Saving Mr. Banks. Or
Yes,
so
yes.
did you like feel like, okay, I'm
Actually, we
walking through this
rewatched it
movie
once
going
we
through that?
got home. We
Or did you?
rewatched it.
I would have
Yeah,
felt like I'm walking through this movie right now,
yeah,
or something.
right.
Being there.
And
Yeah.
then about 3 weeks after we got home is when they did Beauty and the Beast anniversary show. I think it was like 25 or 35 years, and they redid the scene, and she's singing up the street at the studio, and Bill and I are saying, "Look, we know where she is," and they blocked the gift store. They put a so you could see there was a store there to buy merchandise, you know? So we kinda chuckled at that, but we could pick out the buildings as she was dancing up the street. So, yeah, yeah, that was very special to be
But you
there.
got to see actual production being done there while because you got a dose of history. You got to see
Mhm,
some of the history with the awards and the archives and
mhm,
stuff like that. But on the flip side, for somebody that's really interested in the here and now, you got to see,
yeah.
kind of the modern day stuff at the studio at the same time. That's super
Right. It
interesting.
it was a real mix. They would say they'd take us back and talk about, Mickey Mouse Club, and they said this stage is named after Annette, and it just
Mhm.
and then next thing you know, they were talking about something modern, and it was just
I'd be
it was
lost.
yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome on that. So that just sealed the whole trip, I think, and it was great. It
But
was great.
then
Yeah.
But then you're
But
going you're going
then
to
we arrived at
Disneyland.
Disneyland. Yeah, we didn't stay at the Disneyland hotel, and so I expected this headboard with all these lights on
Yeah,
it. We didn't
I
get
know.
it, but
You
everybody
had to
kept
rough
saying,
it.
yeah, we suffered at the other one. Yeah,
So just feel you stayed at the Grand California.
we stayed at the Grand California. Love that.
That
Uh,
wasn't so
I have to tell you about the Grand Californian though, because it was, they gave us our different rooms and we took our keys and they were going to bring our luggage up and we walked and walked and walked and walked. And I've learned that from listening to your podcast, that some of these hotels are really stretched
yes.
out. And so I learned that hint from you that when the porter brought our luggage up, we said, boy, we're really out here in the end. Is there a shortcut? And he did. He showed us a little bit of a shortcut. It was still a walk, but he opened our curtains and he said, look, you can see downtown Disney right there and you'll see the fireworks, right? Look in that direction. So we had a firework view. So we didn't complain about that walk after that, so.
Very nice. So
Yeah.
let me ask you this, because you guys are Walt Disney World veterans.
Yeah.
I even stayed at the Grand Californian. I've been to Disneyland twice, stayed at the Disneyland Hotel twice. Love it. Just
Yeah.
because, again, it's the history of the whole thing. But Scott tells me, Mike, you love the Disneyland Hotel, but because Scott is DVC, so he stayed at the Grand Californian. He's like, you got to stay there. I'm like, I don't need. It's more expensive than Disneyland. I don't need anything more expensive than this. This is tapping me out because you know how he is. He's like, I'm telling you, it's awesome. I'm like, I'm not arguing with you that it's awesome. I'm just saying I might not need that level of awesome in my life. Like, my wife wanted a veranda on our first cruise on our honeymoon. We can never go back. It's like I can never go to an ocean view or inside ever again. It's the $1 million veranda, I call it.
It is.
But what did you think of that compared to the hotels you stayed at Walt Disney World?
I would say it's like a deluxe. It had everything. It was roomy and expansive, and it was good. It was really nice. And of course, you got to walk through down because haven't you eaten at the Storyteller Cafe?
Yes.
So you've been downstairs to see all that. So you have access to all that, and then to have the convenience of just basically going out the back way, and you're at California Adventure.
Right.
Is just that was really nice.
Yeah.
So the location's unbelievable.
Oh, I mean, because you can walk right into California Adventure or
Right.
Disney, downtown Disney. Well,
Right.
kind of next to World of Disney there, which is pretty sharp.
Yeah.
Yeah, I told Scott, like, the theming to me reminded me of like if Grand Floridian and Wilderness Lodge had a baby.
Yeah,
It's like,
that's a good
that's
description.
what you get. It's because
That's a
it
good
feels more
description.
like Wilderness Lodge-ish, like in the dark woods and the
But not the rooms. No, the rooms
Yeah.
felt more like a deluxe modern room.
Right.
really
But
did.
yeah. So, but I mean, you can, like you said, you can get those rooms that overlook the park, you overlook downtown Disney. Very,
Yeah,
I
and we
do
did
like
use the
that.
balcony. We'd sit out there and watch a little bit of that.
I love
The
that.
one thing that surprised me, we went into the park that night, and I think I was trying to think if I knew this ahead of time. I guess I didn't. This was November 13th through 19th, and I didn't realize when we booked it that Christmas decor would be up. So there was
yeah.
the Christmas trees and all that. Duh. So we
Disney. It's after Halloween. It's Christmas.
Yeah, duh. But I did not. That was a total surprise. And we walk in and we had just about enough time before the Christmas parade. So we saw the Christmas parade at night. And then they took us up to Walt's apartment. So we could get the tour of the Walt's apartment. And we got kind of a backside tour of Mr. Lincoln, which is right across.
Very cool.
And that very cool. And then we had time to do some rides that night. So
Let me back you up there for 1 second, because we kind of brushed past your first, like, because you hadn't been in Disneyland Park since you were 7, right?
yeah.
Okay, so you're at the Grand California and you're checked in. You can see the park, and again, you were excited to get to go to Disneyland. Like, I was so excited. Just real quick, when I went out in July, I didn't have tickets the first night. We stayed there for 7 nights, but we only had a 5-day ticket. So the first night we got there, and just stayed in the hotel, swam. But I had to walk through downtown Disney, and I walked up to the gates. And at Disneyland, you can walk right up to the gates and see the train station. I mean, God, you are so close to being in there without a ticket. You can just feel it. And I just stood at the gates like, man, that is the train station. That is Disney. You can see the floral Mickey. Like, this is the thing I've been seeing my whole life. And tomorrow I get to go through those gates.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. Like, I was finally here, almost 50 years old, finally made it. Right. So what was it like for you to be back in that first? because to me, and this is gonna maybe you'll get this, maybe some of our listeners will, maybe they won't. One of the things I love most about Disneyland and Disneyland Park, and not California Adventure, but Disneyland Park, is I find the turnstile, like whole like setup, how they're
Mhm.
smaller than Walt Disney World. They're like shorter, they're kind of tinier. I find that's kind of the invitation that it's just homier. And the whole park
Oh,
follows that. Like it just feels almost like smaller. You
mhm,
walk in and it's just like, oh, you're going into a little small park here. Here's your ticket. There's not a super long line ever that I've gone through.
mhm.
And you go into that little plaza, you go into the train station, and it's amazing. But what was it like for you? I don't know. Did you go in with the group for the very
We
first
went
time?
in with the group. We went in
Okay.
the group, but
Walk us through that. I love hearing these stories.
I it just I sat there in my studying ahead of time, you had said, and a lot of people said that prepare yourself, it'll be smaller. Both the main street and the castle is going to be smaller. So I had my expectations so low. And I took that corner and went in, and I think I was 7 years old again. It looked huge right in front of me. And it was a magic moment. I thought, there it is, there it is. And I'm going to jump ahead to the very last full day too, because it happened again. They told us to meet in the lobby of the hotel at about 7:50, and they said we'd have breakfast at 8. And I'm sitting there thinking, what are we going to do for an hour and 10 minutes? Da, 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 da. Not thinking, if I
Mhm.
thought I could have figured this out, walked us to Disneyland and walked us in even before early entry.
Right.
And we took that corner, and there was nobody on
Nice.
that.
How
Nobody.
awesome is
It
that? Like,
Oh
Main Street
my
USA is
lord. It
yours.
was just our group was the only ones there. And then it was the same feeling the second time. There it is, and there's the castle. Wow. It looked huge. I swear I was 7 years old again, you know?
What was the collective feeling in the group? I mean, were there some people that had, because I didn't cry. I mean, I have a little pride here, but I got choked up. I mean, because I had always wanted to do this. And the
Yeah.
more I've done this podcast for now, for 15 years,
Mhm.
almost 2,400 shows. I mean, I put my heart into this. I love this. And, this was it. I got to go to Disneyland, and it was a big deal for me. And I was, Scott wasn't there the first day I was there, but I was there with my family. And it just hit me like, this is it, man. Life doesn't get much better than this
It
at this
does,
point.
it
Like,
does. It's a
I
magic moment.
I was choked up. What was the group like? Was anybody
It
like
was a magic moment. I think there was a collective gasp when we walked. Oh, there it is, And of course, then they said, "Take your time," and we're thinking, "Take your time." And that later on, when we were up by the castle, we went down by the grotto before anybody else was there, and had pictures taken down there, and pictures in front of the castle and stuff. And you could see the people at rope drop, like looking at us. How'd that group get in? It
Yeah,
was
I
like,
know. Urgh.
yeah, we're VIPs.
Yeah.
We got in, but that was that both those moments were just something I always remember. I will
That's what
always
it's about.
remember.
Oh my gosh, that makes me so happy.
Yeah.
Because Disneyland just makes me happy, but hearing this story makes me even happier. Now, let me. So there's so many questions. Oh, I don't know
It's all
where to
right.
go. But so you guys get in there and you kind of get that early access, kind of get settled. So, and also what I was thinking was, how cool of a job would it be to be one of those guides that gets to go, like, because you get to take those people through that experience. Like, it's going to happen, right?
Mhm.
Like today I'm taking this group into Disneyland, and these people are going to freak out because it's so awesome, and I get to do that every week. I mean, like that.
It
That's how I felt when I taught at Space Camp, because I love my job down there. I was like, these teachers love doing these like fake space missions, but I'm a big kid and I love them too. So I was like, this is awesome. I get to take, because these people would nerd out, but I was like the leader. I was like the big nerd. But I mean, like that'd be the dream role. Anyway, so you guys get in there. So walk us through what you get to do at Disneyland, because you got to have some cool meals. I'm sure you have
Yep.
VIP access to attractions, but were you getting fed all these facts?
Oh, yeah, we were getting fed, and the one time they let us, they said, "You're at lunch on your own." They handed us a $50 gift card,
Yep.
to spend. So it was like everything was taken care of as far as that. What surprised me is, of course, we had the app, and they preloaded 5 lightning lanes.
Mhm.
So we had lightning lane access, and then we had behind the scene tour of both Cars and Indiana Jones, and then we had access to those rides right afterwards.
Nice.
So that sort of information was just amazing. And ate at several places. I don't know how to pronounce it. That PYM Pime, the one where they make the pretzels bigger over at
Oh, Pim's Test Kitchen.
Pim.
Yeah, because
Pim.
I'm not a Marvel guy, but we ate there too because I can remember I had a little bitty fork and a little
Yeah.
bitty pancake.
It was fun. It was fun, in that way. And we got right on it over there. We got right on to Web Slingers and stuff, and that was fun because that was new.
Yep.
On that, but back on Disneyland, they take us back, and they're so close together. It's so convenient there in Fantasyland, all the rides. But we just got boom to boom to boom. They knew what order to put us in, and we just got right on and stuff. And they'd stop the cars, and so they could take pictures. They don't do that for
Yeah. I know, but get in, sir. Here we go. Mr. Toad's taking you to,
yeah, and all that. So that was just amazing. But then we still had time on our own. Then we'd have the afternoon with these lightning lanes that we could do either. We could do either park or do whatever we'd want to do. So that was amazing. And so it was the first time I rode the Guardians of the Galaxy out there. Of course, that's different from one at Disney World. We liked that, and I liked Small World and Pirates. I think a little better out at California. They seemed longer or something. I don't know.
Pirates for sure. Pirates is way better, and I think Small World's better. And again, it's recency bias, people. I understand because, and I am the worst person for this because every time I get back, I'm like, whatever hotel I just stayed at, fill in the blank, is my favorite hotel. So today, I just stayed at Pop Century this past weekend. Pop Century is the greatest hotel that ever lived. No, I'm just saying, I do like Pop, but I love, because again, but I've seen all these little clips of video for my whole life, and it's always showing the California version of Small World where people are getting on the boats outside and it's beautiful. Now that I've done that in the little skinny boats, it's like, oh, that's pretty awesome. Yeah. You can find little characters sitting around and stuff.
It is. And California Adventure, we ate at that Lamplight Lounge.
Yep.
And I had heard you guys talk about the lobster nachos, and not only, and that's enough to feed the whole table. There was 4 of us at our table. They brought one for each of us.
Well, Scott and I are going to go with you next time, and we'll take care of that because we are big eaters.
My! Then we had an entree and dessert after that. That was just wild. That's the night we saw the water show. What is it? Colors?
Yeah, World of Color.
World of Colors.
What did you think of that? Because you've seen all these Disney World nighttime spectaculars. How would you compare that one?
I liked it. I thought it was very mesmerizing to watch. There's a beauty and a peace, and I thought it was lovely. So I really liked it on that. We did not get to see the fireworks at the castle because the Santa Ana winds came in and hurt we did see them late the one night from our hotel room. But so I do need to go to Disneyland again, don't I, to see the
And now there's World of Color 1 for Disney 100. They just added a new they redid the show over at DCA, so it's totally updated because that's why they sent me out there. And there's a new nighttime parade at Disneyland. There's new everybody, let's go to Disneyland. Let's do it. It's awesome. No, so you got to do your group went in Cars Land, or did you see Radiator Springs Racers behind the scenes?
Yeah, right. It was behind, completely back in the shop. And we had like an engineer talk to us about the cars and about the amount of breakdowns that they had and stuff. And he 2 things I thought about to share with the listeners is, one, he made the comment, this is, they try not to be broken down too long because they know, the guests want to go through. But he says, boy, we're getting close to having to have a major shutdown, probably for an extended period of time. And he was estimating 2025. So anybody planning trips in that time period, I'd say kind of keep that in mind, that they just check because that was, I loved that ride, the whole Radiator Springs.
Oh, I mean, that ride is so fun. I've only purchased one individual because I'm cheap. I've only purchased one individual lightning lane since this whole stuff started, and it was this past trip. I paid $18 to ride that
Oh,
ride.
wow. It's
It
worth it.
killed me, but I walked off. I was like, it was worth it because
It was
I
worth
love
it.
that ride. It's
I
so
love that ride. I
yeah.
really, really love that ride. He also told us another story, which I thought was funny. He said the brakes kept locking up periodically, and it was so occasional they couldn't figure out why because it would just happen randomly, and they couldn't figure it out. And they finally, through their engineering minds, correlated it with it was the Japanese. When the Japanese tourists came over, they bought some sort of hotspot for their phones, an app for their phone that was
Mhm.
the same frequency as the brake system on cars
I
was.
know what they're talking about. Yeah, because I've heard that on my tech podcast that you can
Eh,
buy these in like 30 days worth of internet access through a
right. So
hot
s they changed the frequency on the thing, and they didn't have that random braking issue anymore. I thought that was kind of funny, you know?
I mean, that's really trying to well, okay. That's exactly what I used to teach with sixth grade. Okay, let's look for the connection here.
Yeah, what
What's the common thread?
it
That's
took them a
really
while to figure that one out. I
oh,
thought that was a good story. It was
that's
a
a
good
great
story,
story.
but
Oh my
it's
gosh.
it's just amazing how technical those cars are, and, both computer-wise and I'm not and then my background's not engineering, but it was just like, "Wow." And then the cars for, or Indiana Jones is this, the same way, the amazing background, so that was a fun those were fun tours, behind the scene
Right.
tours.
So, because we're gonna have to wrap here shortly,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's just we talked about this before we started recording. Was that Walt Disney World is so fun, right? It's such a grand scale. So many hotels, transportation's fun. There's
Mhm.
so much to do. You couldn't do it in 10 trips.
Right.
Disneyland isn't like that. It's compact. But I mean, there's positives and negatives to both. But for me, Disneyland's just kind of the new thing because I've done Walt Disney World so many times. But for you, when you were out there, I mean, aside from the access that you had in the insight and just all these VIP experiences, what was it about Disneyland that maybe left an impression that you brought back to Ohio with you? That you went there when you were 7, but this trip was, what were the memories that you're going to bring home from this trip that Disneyland left on your heart?
It was the history. It was the history of Walt. Walt walked those streets, and like I said, we were in his apartment. We ate at I think it's called the Plaza Inn for
Mhm.
breakfast. And he said Walt would sit out there at the tables and just eavesdrop and listen to the guests as they would buy, and he would take notes and all that. And I just thought, wow, and that was just something. And so it's the history of that, and of course we saw that the whole trip. We saw that at the studios, and we saw it at Carowinds, and with the trains and the carousel there, and so it's just it kind of connects you. It connects you back to where you were when you were little, but it connects you back to black and white early Mickey
Right.
Mouse.
Yeah.
On that it's an Americana. It's great. You can't top it. It's great.
No, and I think too, having that group and having those
Yes.
experts in the guides there with you that they could say, okay, remember when we were at the studios that we saw
Yes.
this, this is connected to this in the park. Disney or Walt wanted to do this in the movies. He brought it to a three-dimensional, experience here in Disneyland, or what have you. This came from that. And like you said, connecting the dots. I think that's kind of what life's all about, right? Just
Yeah, I think so too. And it's the
seeing how things are.
story.
Yeah,
It's the
it's storytelling,
storytelling. It's
totally.
the storytelling thing. You walk even in the merchandise stores, and it's storytelling right there
Right.
at its finest. And yeah, and stories are important.
I'm
Uh,
gonna put you on the
I have
spot
to
real
say
quick.
that as a writer. Stories are
Oh, yeah,
important.
100%. Hey, this is called the Be Our Guest podcast. All we do is tell stories every day.
Right.
I mean, we
Love it.
try to. I mean, it's
Yeah.
your story. And I think that, it's basically like a never-ending audiobook is what I try to do on Mondays, right? I mean, you just jump in and just, hey, take me on a ride. Tell us about your trip.
Right.
That's when it all started for me, back in 2008,
I
because
love
I
it.
loved reading trip reports. And I'm like, well, this would be
Mhm.
cool to just be able to listen to them, while you're cutting the grass. And
Well, to
here we
get you excited.
so let me ask you one last question.
Okay.
So I wondered about this. Okay, say we can head out to Disneyland right now. You
Mhm.
only get to go on one attraction. It can be
Ooh.
any attraction though. Yeah, I can lightning lane you on anything you want to go on. It could be a
Mm.
sporting ride, it could be an e-ticket, it could be you could see
Ooh.
fireworks, you could see a show. What it could be an experience. You could just have a meal or a snack. What would you do at Disneyland? One thing right now to kind of
One more thing.
one more thing.
It's I wouldn't go on the Matterhorn.
No, seriously, my back, I love it. I have a
No,
love-hate relationship.
I
I do
wouldn't
it
do
every
that.
time. It's like Space Mountain, but it doesn't like me either.
You know what I would do if we'd go out now again? I would want to go. I like the Haunted Mansion.
Mhm.
And when we saw it, had the Christmas overlay. And I'm not a what's it called? The Night Before Christmas.
Yeah,
I'm not a
Nightmare Before
big
Christmas.
Nightmare Before Christmas. I'm not a big fan of that, and that
Me
distracted
neither.
me.
Yeah.
And so I think I would like to I would like to see Haunted Mansion out there without the Christmas overlay, on that. So that would be one I would ride definitely for sure. And I surprisingly I would probably do a web slinger again. That was kind of fun.
I did that for the first time this past trip, and I was in there with 3 young kids, and they were like, and I didn't know what I was doing. I felt like I was 90 years old because I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't even know which one of these are mine, but these kids are all doing karate moves. So I'm going to do karate moves because I don't want to lose, and I
Mhm.
lost.
Yeah.
And I'm throwing them. I'm like, I got to get all these little bugs. But I mean, I was sweating and I was trying because I hate to lose.
It
It
was
was
fun. I would
wild.
probably do that again and on that, but definitely Carland too.
Oh,
In
yeah.
fact, Carland might have been the that
That's my
joint.
favorite line.
I think that might have been my first choice, but Haunted Mansion would come in second.
Good call. Yeah, no, I'm with you on Nightmare Before Christmas. I've
Uh,
I've tried to watch that movie like 2 or 3 times and
no.
never made it past like 10 minutes. I think it's weird.
I was almost disappointed when I got off, and that was one of our first rides that night, because I was so excited
Uh-oh.
about the Haunted Mansion. It was like, oh, I didn't like the Christmas. Then it got better after that. I think we went on Thunder Mountain and a couple of the other ones, so it
Oh,
got better after that.
I
So
love it.
I'm not going to complain. Not going
Oh,
to.
no. You're such a positive person, and,
Yeah.
hey, this is what a great way to start the week. I mean, this is it. I mean, this is the stuff this is the good times in life, and I hope everybody will eventually get the opportunity to do something like this.
Oh,
This
I hope so.
like you said, it was a special, celebration for you guys, your 50th wedding
It
anniversary.
was-
Again, congratulations, and what a way to
Thank you.
celebrate.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And like I said, I talked him into going to World again in a couple of weeks. So hopefully I'll get some more Disney in a couple of weeks. So
That's right. Well, thank you for taking the time, and we'll
thank
have to do
you.
it again here soon. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike.
All right. Don't forget our show is brought to you by the Magic for Less Travel. Check them out today for all your Disney trip planning needs. The agents are standing by right now to help you plan a great Walt Disney World, Disneyland, Disney Cruise Line, or even Adventures by Disney trip. To swing by themagicforless.com. Please also use our Amazon affiliate link when you shop online. It's one extra click that supports everything we do throughout the year. It's beourguestpodcast.com/Amazon. And a sincere thank you to the patrons of the Be Our Guest Podcast. You allow us to put these shows out not once a week, not twice a week, 3 or 4 times a week, every single week. It's because of your support, and you'll get a bonus show called Mike in the Midwest as well. I did just get back in from riding with Mallory again. We took her over 2 miles on the state highway this time, and my blood pressure is just now coming down after 45 minutes of podcasting. And those are the kind of stories you get on that show, not Disney, but life, reaffirming that I'm still able to podcast. It's just about a guy in the Midwest sharing stories. So if you want to get in on that, come on over to patreon.com/Be Our Guest Podcast. Give me a follow on the social media. I'm at Be Our Guest Mike on Instagram and Twitter. Photos there from the past race weekend, so check those out. And of course, we will have a live show this Sunday night. Scott's bailing on us. He's going to be in Washington, D.C. He's trying to go see the White House. I know he's going up in the Washington Monument. He's going and seeing museums. He's doing all the cool stuff. So it's just going to be you and me this Sunday night. So I need your calls. Let's talk Disney. We could talk annual passes. That's kind of the hot topic. We'll talk about whatever you want, though. So join me Sunday night, 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central. We'll take your calls and have a good time. All right. So we are going to get out of here and wish you an awesome week. Let's make it a great one. So for Gene out in Ohio, I'm Mike here in Missouri. You guys stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you real soon. That was a great show. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You make it so easy. You are a good interviewer. You
I-
used to be on the other side interviewing when I worked for the newspaper for a little bit, and you could always
Thank
tell
you.
a good interviewer. So you've
Thank
got
you,
it.
'cause I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just a school teacher.
No. And you've got the radio voice. I know you could fake it too and make it even deeper, but you got the good radio voice.
I fake it because my dad was a radio guy. So
I remember you saying that. So well, you have fun down at Disney.
I will.
Try to get to
I will.
Tron and all
I will
that. And if you ever get to Northwest Ohio, I'm hour and a half from Cedar Point.
Yeah, those roller coasters up there scare me because I
Oh,
used
yeah.
to, because when I taught summer school for gifted, I always did like an amusement park kind of. We did like, this is how long ago it was, like Roller Coaster Tycoon had just come out on the computers, and so like
Yeah. Oh,
you
yeah.
use that for
I
like
remember that.
bonus stuff. And so we'd, look at stuff and research roller coasters and use like physics and stuff. And I remember like Millennium Force and all these roller coasters. We'd look at like, okay, let's figure out like how
Mhm.
long the track is and how tall it is, and how fast it goes and acceleration, deceleration,
Crazy.
stuff like that. And I'm like, I am not going to that park.
It is
I need to
crazy.
go that fast.
Crazy. My
I,
husband and the grandkids and our kids ride them, and I do a lot of walking around. I
yeah,
do the spinning ones there, but I don't
yeah,
get on some of those big. I
yeah,
tried a couple of them once or twice, but they're so high. They're so
yeah.
high. But I trust Disney.
I
I
do too, but
I love the Incredicoaster. It
I
was
like that too. Yeah,
but it's
it's
something
good
about
enough.
a Disney. I'm okay. Not at Cedar Point.
I agree. I'm so with you there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I am going to run. Mallory wants to
Okay.
go drive to Dairy Queen before I
Yeah.
go. She wants
And
to.
get packed. You get packed.
Eventually, I will.
All right. Well, thank you
It's
so
something.
much.
Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate it. If you ever need anything, you just give me a yell. I
I
appreciate
will
you so
do.
much. All right.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Have
Have
a
a
good
great
trip.
night. Bye bye.
Bye bye.